Hello.
Good evening.
How are we? It has been a little while as well, Matt.
It has. It's been a combination of time off and life events and everything going on. So
Yes, yeah. I think we had a sporadic one or two couple of sessions in between everything going on, but now I think we've got a few weeks or a few other weeks, I should say, where we've got a good rhythm going again. So it should
get
be some
momentum
fun.
back again. Yep, absolutely. We've got a game to build, mate.
We do, yeah. I mean, we kind of went off track for a little bit.
Yeah, but it was a useful track.
It was useful for the greater good. As
I learned some stuff, so that's fun.
Oh, we both did for sure. So I guess in terms of recapping and where we are and everything, we've got a couple of microservices we were working on.
Yep.
We built some GitHub Actions to go and build those, test those, etc. We've got container images ready for those as well, published up to the registry. We've got infrastructure as code to deploy all that stuff out. So actually, we made some good ground. Yeah.
We're the envy of a lot of startups right now.
This is true. But now we've got to get to the hard bit, in my opinion, which is, actually delivering on what we said we'd go and deliver, right? Which is a game.
At some point that'll evolve as well, I'm sure.
Exactly. So we were talking just before going live, and by the way, this is, I think, the first where we've rebranded and we are now ToolUp Days rather than ToolUp Tuesdays to give us that extra little bit of flexibility, because I think we found we may have needed that from time to time. This is the first of those, so welcome to ToolUp Days rather than ToolUp Tuesdays, etc. Let's get going. Let's actually check in where we are. I will share my screen. There we go.
Excellent.
And I'm just going to bring us up to ToolUp Tuesday here. So maybe a good place to start is taking a look at the architecture diagram again, potentially, and just refreshing our memories, where we are, what we were looking at, and starting from there.
Yep, that sounds like good.
So let me just open up this.
Oh, you've got a lot going on there.
There is, isn't there? I need to close that down. Close that. I think it was you who pointed out this
Draw.io extension.
Yeah, really a fan of that, actually.
It's really useful.
Yeah, rather than have to log on to draw.io and then go and open it and everything, just straight in VS Code, there I am, productive.
And then it goes into your repo, so it's there for everyone to see as well, which is the important part.
Oh, let me turn that off. Oops, there we go. So we have got our architecture diagram here. We built the World Events engine, and as a recap, the World Events engine was the thing that effectively crunches the the numbers, like the tick kind of bit.
Yep.
We've got the scheduler and the player state API. So the player state API is literally just like a term API that is updating the backend state of our users. So some kind of world event happens, some event, some trigger happens, goes through the player states to go and be updated. And then, of course, we've got the decisions API, which is where every one of those turns, the player needs to make some kind of decision. That gets stored, and then eventually that crunching happens on the world events engine side.
Yep.
That's kind of it in a nutshell, I think, of what we're planning.
And I think so. What we were discussing beforehand is it would be nice. I don't know whether this is something we'll achieve today or whether or not this is something we set as a goal for the next couple of sessions. Is that we should get to a stage where you and I independently can make a decision in the game.
Yes.
A turn can happen.
Yes.
Effectively a day. And then at the end of it, there should be a winner and a loser.
Yep.
Based on some random number generator.
Yep. I mean, that's simple enough and it can work, right? In terms of what we need. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Let's do that. So, in which case, let me jump back to our source. Let's think. The most important thing at the minute is probably the world events engine to calculate whether something has happened. The decision can be fairly trivial. We give an input, we wait, that gets stored, it gets processed. That's fairly trivial.
We're going to need to set up each individual user's state, store that.
True, yeah, we haven't done that yet. Good point.
So we almost need to decide what's the state, the kind of overarching state that we're going to be allowed to configure, we're going to allowed to tweak.
Yes. So I don't think we even scaffolded out really an object in too granular detail, did we?
Yeah. And I'm almost looking at this going, we probably went a bit deep on this.
Overkill. Yeah, agree.
So we've got a state object, haven't we, there?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's good enough to start with.
Is it probably a bit too complicated for what we need?
I think let's get rid of employees for now.
Okay.
I think bars we can keep because that's a foundation we want to kind of keep there, is having multiple bars, building your empire of bars or however you want to call it. But your player has an ID, you have an number of bars, and then you have a certain number of funds. So maybe you start off with £1,000. And in fact, maybe this could be the first event. You remember we were talking about different types of events.
Yep.
Maybe first event is you get given a certain number of funds in the game. You decide to either place it on the stock market or not place it on the stock market, or something like that, or certain stock, or some kind of condition.
Or how about you can buy a bar. Basically, is the first thing you do. The first decision you make is buying a bar, but where?
Yeah.
And that will, because then we can start fleshing out the world in terms of,
I like it.
The different regions, and then yada yada. Let's figure it out from there.
I like it. So, in which case, then the first thing we need really is the player decision, isn't it? Rather than the event engine, I think. Bit of both.
You're effectively going to end up with empty state, aren't you? I would think per user.
Yes, exactly. Ideally, on some kind of account creation, we'd initialize a user over there.
Yeah.
I think we don't have that account creation experience yet, but we could easily just create like a player state create API kind of thing, which we may even have already. Posts. Here we go. Yeah, we do have a post. So yeah, we can do that to some degree.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Admittedly, it'll all be very manual. We don't have an account sign up page yet, but that's okay. In which case, then we need to figure out our decisions, the different types of decisions that we're going to have, I guess.
So, I suppose whether or not you class the user buying a bar as a decision, or whether that's part of setting up initial state.
That's fair, because we did say the player decisions would be a response to some kind of event, didn't we? Whereas that is something which you could just do as part of your own daily routine.
You could argue that either way, I think. Because you could argue that if your initial player state is you just have some funds but no bars, the initial player decisions might be these bars have come on sale.
But didn't we want to have a scenario where every single player would react to the same decisions?
Yeah, we did.
So therefore, I would say let's keep that separate, because that's a mechanic that I think would be quite fun to keep in.
Yeah.
So let's make it part of the player state.
Okay.
So
Which means we need to expose those as options on creation. So we almost need something above and beyond, don't we? We almost need like an account creation API almost, which then saves to state.
Is that not what the player state API is doing?
Well, the player state API right now is pretty dumb, but if you think about it, if one of the first things we're going to say is
you're saying we need like a domain above it kind of thing.
As a user, the first thing you're going to want to do is to choose the location where you place your bar.
And not just in the beginning, but in the future, you might decide, you know what, I want to build a second bar, I want to build a third bar.
Yeah.
In the interest of not sprawling us across many microservices, shall we keep it within player state API for now? But
yeah, okay.
Because I guess what I'm thinking is we might go down the path of, hey, we need infrastructure as code and everything else again. Shall we keep it as part of this API?
No, fair enough.
Just for the purposes of this, and then later we can decide about refactoring, pulling up that domain logic. Right, where's my mouse? Here we go. So, if we had a post API there already, we could realistically do something like...
Do you know, I'm leaning towards having the buying of a bar as being the first decision that you have to make. Right? And the reason I'm saying that is because you could, as the first decision that happens, could be the following bars are available. Now, potentially every single person could elect to buy the same bars in the same location.
But not everyone's going to be starting the game at the same time.
But that would be a decision for a day, though, wouldn't it?
So what you're saying is
the actual
99
act of buying a bar is day one's decision.
But if I joined the game a month ago and you just joined today, and we're playing the same game, would that mean that I have a decision to make which is different to yours then?
You see, the route of allowing them to, if you join after 10 days, do you have 10 days worth of decisions to replay for your new account?
But then that could get really tricky, like if you join 2 years in.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Which is where I think we talked before about new players joining will get like the average money that is averaged across all the players, for example, etc. And then you're almost in the middle of like that bell curve of like starting off.
Yeah. Okay. I think I think the danger is we get a woolly definition of what constitutes initial state and what constitutes decisions.
Yeah, no, you're fair. Tell you what, let's make it as a special type of decision.
Like a setup decision or something.
Not just setup, but maybe in certain scenarios as well. Like maybe once a quarter, once every year, that comes up as well, or something like that. But on the setup experience, that's something which only like the day one users would get. Everyone else gets a normal decision, so that you'd maybe get 2 decisions that day or something.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it like that. So, back to player decisions. So, right, so we got our model and we got our controller. Now,
We never actually implemented this bit properly, did we? From right?
no, I think we did. It was the other one that we didn't. I mean, it's all very basic. It is just to take JSON object, save JSON object kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because we initialize the data up here as well, rather than
Yeah, that's right.
bring it in.
So when we return it, that's right. So the get decisions you have there is returning static data rather than actually anything from storage.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing we need to think through is handling. Well, actually, no, we don't, do we? This is okay. So this brings us back to the challenge of having this as a decision, and the previous decision we made on the kind of tick mechanic as well.
Yeah.
If it's a decision to create the bar and which area, then you wouldn't get a response until the next tick, which as a first user experience is kind of rubbish.
Yes, I agree.
Do we need to throw out a lot of our decisions and rethink the base mechanics potentially? Just gonna put that out there.
Potentially.
I have a feeling maybe.
But isn't this just... So, okay, if we forget the decisions piece now, like buying a bar is a decisional thing, it just becomes initial state.
Yeah.
Then what we need to surface up to the user are the options available on account creation.
Yep.
Or do we? Do we need to... Oh, this is hard.
It is.
Building stuff is hard.
It is. I think create your account, and for the first state, you get a base state. The funds are averaged based on all players' funds. So you just get an average number of funds. And then with that, your first decision is... Well, you also get given a bar to begin with. That's just de facto. You get given a bar in, like, starter land, let's say.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn the ropes. That's where you decide making your decisions, etc.
Yeah.
Are we complicating things with having this kind of tick mechanic and the decisions? Do we instead need to make it almost real time in terms of you investing in your bar, but like world events have a reaction? So if something big, something drastic is happening. But otherwise, as time goes on, you accumulate funds because of time in the real world, number of employees you have, multiplication effect, etc. You get money because your bar is popular.
Yeah.
And that's something which is a factor of the bar. Do we get rid temporarily of the decision logic and the decision mechanic, make it a bit more real time in terms of how you interact with it?
Yeah, I think that's probably a sensible decision.
Ironic choice of words.
Or intentional, you decide.
Yeah. I just think the world events engine and the decision thing is tripping us up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think if we could almost do, right, you've created your bar. Oh, sorry, you've created your account. Here's a bar. Here's some money. Go. But then the big player decisions come along when it's like, I don't know, inflation is 10% real world scenario, right? Or however, how do you want to react to this? And then that kind of thing is a big world event which you have to react to as a player.
What do we do? Yeah, so I think we just let people edit within the constraints of the model what they can do on their bar.
Exactly.
And then every day that there is a set of, like you say, the adjustments for takings for a day, like days takings on the bar, days salaries on a bar.
Yep. That's just part of the world events engine. It keeps...
So that ticks over at a certain time every day and is calculated at a certain time every day for everyone.
Exactly. And ignore player decisions for the time being as a world events thing. You know, you're just interacting. Ultimately, you're adjusting your back-end bar state when you make changes.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair way of tackling this.
So then...
So it becomes back to player state again in that
Back
case.
to player state, yes.
And then
so a lot of
think
this...
we need another model on top, I think.
I agree. I think we've got some of the models there already for a bar.
Yeah. Again, I would say they're probably a bit complicated for what we need right now.
Yeah. So if we go back to player state a minute. So each player is going to have an ID.
Yep.
They have a certain number of bars.
Yep.
They have a certain number of funds.
Yep.
So the create experience, if I go and find that state. So here we go. Let's assume this is the create experience here now. Okay. Let's assume what am I going for here? Funds is equal to 1,000 for now.
Yep.
But in reality, we'd have a to do here. Calculate this as current day's average of all other players.
Yep.
Like that. Player state dot bars.
Yep.
Why are we even passing in?
I don't because this is supposed to be an abstract. This is just a saving. This is about saving the state.
We need almost a business logic layer above, don't we?
The model above it, yeah. Which so it's almost a new controller that handles.
Yep.
It's for like player creation and.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I'm just going to lazy copy and paste.
And then that'll eventually call player state controller.
Yeah, exactly. What did I do? No. Yes, it did. Let's just do this the old-fashioned way.
That should do it.
Yes.
You probably wouldn't call players. You'd probably call the HTTP endpoint of the other action, but because right now that's talking to a back-end service to do all this.
Yes, you are spot on. So we'd get rid of that, wouldn't we?
I mean, you could do it that way. It's only because we're trying to avoid proliferation of microservices that we.
Yeah.
So you could just leave it with the iPlayer state service and then just change what the controllers do. Because ultimately you're going to be saving the same thing anyway. You're going to be retrieving values from that service anyway, aren't you?
So we don't need to get in reality because we're not getting anything when we're doing the create player.
Nope.
It's going to be posting. So we're going to do models player state. We're not going to take anything in.
Nope.
Instead, we are going to. There we go.
You're just going to create a new.
Yes, so we're going to do exactly something like that. Thanks, Copilot. Done.
I don't know whether or not we want to do. Do we want to allow people to pass in a name parameter, maybe?
For their play, you mean?
Either for the player or for the bar.
We will for the bar. I can't remember what we said in terms of. Does a bar have? The bar does have a name. There we go. Good. So we probably will want to allow a. So something like string. Phone number there. First. And then. Name.
That's a really weird syntax for defining that.
What's going on? Let me try and-
Allocation. Yeah. It's better. A new bar. Yeah. Then you've got an extra bracket in there somewhere.
Yeah, that one. And then that one as well, I think.
So
There we go. That's better. Right. So ID, new grid, value, starts off at 0. That's reasonable. Employees, no employees to start with. Yeah. Clarity 0. District. Didn't even realize we came up with a district, but okay. Right.
District North. Did we actually give it a name for a district? I can't remember. No, it's actually an object. But I would say that's probably a bit overkill for what we need anyway.
I agree. I'm tempted to just get rid of it for the time being.
I would get rid of
District ledger, employees.
Yeah, do you know what I would be tempted to do at this point to
What's
simplify it completely? Is to get rid of district, get rid of popularity, get rid of employees. Leave
So
value.
ID, name, and
The
value.
only thing I would be tempted to add on there, just because I'm thinking about our ultimate goal of you and I being able to change something on there that would effectively put us in competition, would be to put something like a type on there. And type would be an enum that would basically say cocktail bar or cantina or like that.
You can thank Copilot.
Thanks, Copilot. That's great. We're gonna have cantina. How can we not have cantina?
I'm just I'm just the keyboard operator here. Copilot's
That's pretty
doing the
amazing. which means that we then end up with a. I don't think you actually. I think you just added the enum rather than the.
I did. I realised. Let me take outside of class.
No, you want it to be inside the namespace.
Oh yeah. Like that. And then
It just has a property of bar type. Bar type, yeah. I was going to say I'd avoid type.
yes, that could probably go wrong quite quickly. I have a feeling. Bar type. Now that's something that's going to need to be passed in as well.
Well, I mean, you could say that you start with it. Like when you first create it, it gets created with a bar type of bar.
And then you specialize, or you don't specialize as you decide.
And then there is a cost associated with changing to different types. So if that's the operation that you and I, if that's the initial kind of thing that you and I are making a decision about.
Yep, cool. I like that.
We just have this will cost.
It's like a license fee almost.
Just change it to a cantina, and then the world events thing that happens on a day is that cantinas suddenly super popular in Planet X.
Yep. Okay, good. Like that. So that is our player state. Player created. Now in reality, we would just try to think through how we would do this if we did have separate microservices or separate.
You would probably be using, if you were doing microservices, you would have them, particularly because we're in container apps anyway, you'd probably have Dapper service invocation.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
To call the other service. But then we get down the whole route, like you said, of wanting infrastructure as code and being able to...
No, we're not going down there.
Which is great fun, but distracting from the core process of the core.
Indeed. So we do need to instantiate that again, don't we, really?
I thought that was...
Oh no, I removed it. This one.
Yeah.
State service.
Don't say it should be coming from dependency injection. So the first thing you're going to do as a player is you will call this API passing in your name.
Yep. And what we should also check for in this API is that the user already exists and that create operation shouldn't be allowed through here.
What's identifying us as a user at that point in that player creation controller?
Nothing right now.
So in reality, that post request probably wants to return that GUID, doesn't it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep. So something like...
Yeah, just return player state.id.
Keyboard is all right now. I have to change back over to you here a minute.
I would just return it as a GUID, can't you? You don't.
Oh, my keyboard is... I'm struggling to type right now. I'm just going to commit this to a branch and transition while I find batteries or something. Create branch. See, this is how bad it is. I'm just going with that. Right, commit.
I don't know. I thought you'd have known this now.
I do, apart from my keyboard is completely throwing me off. Oh, man. Right. Whilst I go and get my key, I will try and commit this as well. Let's see. I'm just going to stop sharing a moment. Come on, mouse. Clearly, this is the point where my batteries are dying on both of my devices here. Which, of course, really good timing.
Well, if you can get to the stage where they're actually even closely committed, then I can pick them up and...
That's exactly where I'm trying to get to. Right, bear with. Copy that. And paste that. Push. Right. There should be a commit waiting for you on a branch which is really badly named because
Preview width. Is that the one?
that's it. And it's not even preview spelled correctly.
That's okay. So if I now bring mine up, I should have that now. Synchronize that. And I've got a player creation controller. Excellent. There we go. This distributed source control thing actually works, doesn't it?
It does. Reassuring.
So we've now got the ability. So as a player, I can call that API, name my first bar, and be allocated a thing of type bar. So do we need another controller then for sort of bar management?
Yes, I think that is fair.
So the first thing we were going to do was actually just change that to just return the GUID.
Mm-hmm.
So if I then go and create a new bar management controller and then because I'm lazy too, we'll do that one. Rename to bar management controller. That might nicely. Let me duplicate API controller. Oh no, it won't be. It's not been saved yet. So we're going to want to initialize it. Please don't tell me that. Being too smart for its own good, it's trying to rename things in both files. Right.
Yes.
So we're going to end up with a operation. So we're going to have an operation called change bar type. And that is going to be, and we're actually going to give that, I think, bar ID bar type. What I'm trying to figure out here is how we make sure that we don't end up with a single operation for every update that you could possibly do to your bar object. Because we could potentially end up with a change bar type operation and then a change add employee operation and
In fairness, though, there might be an argument for wanting to do that. Like if we had like a business logic kind of angle behind it, so you update your bar type, it's a license fee of current value of bar times 0.1, for example. 10% cost to your bar to do that. So there might be a legitimate reason to do that. But having said that, I agree. I think get the current state of bar. Hold on, let's think this through. You'd get the current state of the bar.
Do you know what I'm thinking at this point?
Simple.
I don't think it matters.
No, I agree. Come to that later.
I think we know that's going to have a GUID ID, and then it's going to have a GUID bar ID, because they will potentially be different. Because you can have multiple bars on there. Is that actually just giving me everything I need? Yes, it is going to give me everything I need. Look at that. Or at least almost everything I need. So it goes and gets the bars where it matches the bar ID. We go and get the player for that. We throw an error if we don't find it, and we change that. But we'd also want to do player state dot funds, and then we want to assign a different value to changing to different types, I think.
Yes. Keep it simple for now. Just to like a 10% decrement on the player's funds.
Yep.
At least we've got something then that we can.
Player state dot funds 0.1
times 0.9. Oh no, you got the minus equals. Sorry, yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah, it was a weird way of doing it for some reason. My brain decided that
I'm with you. I'm with you.
optimal way of doing that, but yeah, no, absolutely right.
What's it complaining
And then
about?
it'll complain because it's an int and it's trying to turn it into a double. So we just need to do that basically.
Okay. Yep.
It's a bit clunky, but it would do the job. What's that one complaining about?
I think that one's fine.
Do that. That would be captured anyway. It's not that one. It's not that one. And that one's doing a first or default, so we do that as well. That would solve that. Right, okay. So nullable checks.
And line 29, I think, wants a nullable as well by the looks of it.
Although we should probably do an if player state
Exactly.
null return not found.
Exactly.
That nonsense.
Which ironically, oh, there we go. Now it's cool.
It's done it for the bar, just not done it for the state itself.
Yep. Good. That makes sense. And I quite like this because when we start combining this with the world events engine,
yep,
of say, hey, you know, bars of this type are going to be particularly successful, etc., etc.
Yep.
That decision of whether I convert to a specialized bar on day 1 or day 2 will have an impact.
Yes.
Which is nice. I like that.
Yes, and then because right now I think we're expecting there to be an increase in your funds every day.
Yes. Regardless. Because you're open and you're a bar.
You haven't got any expenses going out yet.
Correct. Exactly.
but actually the variation in fact, what we might just do in the world agent is just to say, here's our 4 bar types. One of them will net you 0 cash, one will net you like a baseline, then 10% of a baseline, 20% of a baseline.
Yeah.
So a risk every day of picking the one that's not going to get you any increased funds.
Yep. Okay, good. So we can change the bar type.
Yep. So that can be bar management controller / and those are all going to come from. Do I want that to be a post?
It's not really a post as ours, so I was just kind of thinking through. It's more of a put, I guess, or a patch.
It's an update operation, so it probably would be a post. And then, do I need a model for that? So if I give this a
do you want a post or a put?
let's just do that. So that's going to become player ID. That'll become bar ID. New bar type. So I get that. Get rid of that one, and then we go from query. That should do, shouldn't it? Means that you'll pass in the 2 parts on the post request.
Is it a post or is it a put though?
I'd always gone for puts for the initial creation. And post.
See, I would have went for post
update.
for initial creation. Huh.
Ooh, controversial. Now, the way the reference thing I use for this is the Azure Cognitive Search REST API.
Interesting.
Not because it's a fine API and it does the job.
Yeah.
But it has very clear concepts of you are adding a document and you are updating a document.
Gotcha.
So if you go on to there you go. So let's just do a create an indexer. That's a sample one. Is a post. Update an indexer is a put. No, I stand corrected. There we go. So you're right. That should be.
Pets. I think you've been put, my friend.
There we go. Close enough.
There we go. Good.
Fix some bugs in there. New bar ID, player ID. Yep.
Nice.
Okay, so you would. Current pattern is you would go on player creation controller, do a post request to create yourself a bar. So that's new player coming in, names their bar, does a post request to do that, gets their ID back, their player ID back.
Yep, agree.
They then go to the bar management controller, and they then make a decision as to whether or not they are going to amend the the bar type.
Do we need to be defensive about that save there? So if the save is successful, return OK, otherwise return an error.
I don't know whether or not we have. You are absolutely right. Yes, we should do, but I don't know whether or not we should probably be a bit more defensive down the stack.
Agree. Agree.
But in the interest of
yeah. Put that
working,
as a to-do. We can put it as a comment for to-do.
Yep. Now, the only thing that's slightly worrying me there is that we are asking you for a bar ID and we never return that value. So when you create your account, the only thing we return
I'm with you.
is your player ID, and I wonder whether or not we actually just want
To return the player object.
Yeah, I mean, we could return player state, couldn't we?
Exactly.
So that should do it now, shouldn't it?
I think so.
So do we want to commit that and deploy it and then try it independently?
Well, before we do, where did we initialize the state locally? Was that this one or was that player decisions?
When I ran this locally, it just goes to an in-memory state. So I could test this locally.
Sorry, what I mean is there was somewhere, and I can't remember if it was player decisions or player state, where we had some effectively a database defined in code. I think it was player decisions.
Player decisions. Yeah.
Okay, so we're good.
Fine. That's all. That's the Go version has the.
Cool.
It has a.
In which case, yeah, I think let's give it a go then.
So if I commit that and deploy that up, that should kick our pipeline off, and we should both then independently be able to test it against our code.
It needs to go to main, doesn't it? So we'll need to merge it from a PR into main.
Yeah. So if I just commit added management push, and then can I do a pull request from here? Yeah, sure I can, can't I? GitHub pull requests. Create pull request.
Yep.
From there. Create.
That's just my default markdown
Yep.
thing.
So there's our pull request. So if we now go on to the project.
That's okay. You can ignore that. That's my automation to add the PR to the project board.
Okay, cool. So merge.
Yes.
And we should then end up. Is that everything gone?
Yep.
Well, that's never a good sign.
Did we disable the workflow?
That's a very good question. Let's have a look. Switch back to main. Cut my local changes. I should end up with those. Right, player state API. It should be on player state, on branches main.
On push, yep. Yep.
And that should be okay, shouldn't it?
It should.
Why is that not run then? I wonder if because the other one failed.
Shouldn't have any impact on it, that. So code. 1 minute ago, there was a merge pull request. Source spacebar. What was the workflow again? The trigger?
It should be
Because it's a single star, isn't it? On player state, not a double star.
Oh, is
Line
that
7. I think.
Let's just check. You might be right.
Yeah.
Right there. And it's also not. I mean, it shouldn't make any difference. It's not quoted. Is it?
That one was double star there.
Yeah, I'm just. It's also quoted.
Oh, yeah, that shouldn't make a difference. But the double star will. Because we wouldn't have changed something in the root directory of that API, it wouldn't have triggered the change. Whereas now this time when we push to main, because you're updating the workflow, it will trigger it.
Well, yeah. Try that again. That's better.
Nice.
So whilst that's doing that, we've got some test HTML files in here somewhere.
We do.
HTTP test player state. There we go. So we're going to want to we are going to want to post to something that I'm assuming is that one. We'll find out in a minute. But it's going to be player creation. Too many posts. Content. Type. It's going to be application JSON. And then what are we sending to that, if anything?
We are sending just the name of the bar, aren't we?
Bar name. So actually that won't be in the body at all, will it? Where will that come from, actually?
It should be in the body. Yeah, it should be in the body. Did we screw up the input?
No, what should we call it? Let's have a Moss Isley. There we go.
Other bars are available.
Yes. So that would be the first part. And then second part is going to be to go to bar management. So it's going to have a couple of GUIDs on there. Slash GUID, which I need to put in a minute. And it was also going to have a query string. Well, it didn't have to be a query string, but of new bar type equal to the Cantina, wasn't it? I did put on there.
Mm-hmm.
Have anything on there? Bring those around so I can see what I'm doing.
And this one would be a put, wouldn't it, rather than the post?
That one would be a put, yes. And then we also just want to have a get state on there to go and grab the player state.
Yes.
From that one, I'll do them in sequence. Now, one thing this extension has, which is really nice, it is a bit fiddly to get going, and I won't be able to do it now, is you can name these individual requests in a single file, and then grab the outputs from the previous one.
Oh, that's nice.
State as well. So where I've got those two GUID there, in theory, I could grab them from the output of the first request.
Nice.
It's a bit.
It has deployed, by the way.
Has it? Excellent. So, is that the right name I've got for my player state? No, not even close. There we go. I should also parameterize this bit as much so I don't have to keep typing it all the time. Right, okay, so if I did player creation now, first bar name is field is required. You've got it there.
Now, is it because do we need to have like a from body property?
Possibly. I wonder whether it'll accept it on the query string. There we go. Right, so that works on the query string. I would agree that probably should be on the from body.
Yep.
Right, so I've now got that. So that's my ID there. That's my bar ID and my player ID. And then that is my bar ID. If I now do that, I get an OK response. If I go back to there and then go and grab my player state, I now
There you
have
go.
set up as bar type 3. Yay!
This game
Voila.
isn't very fun, is it?
Oh, no fun yet.
But that's good because now I could equally go in and do the same and choose to either update my bar or not update my bar.
I think we're asking a lot of our users to do HTTP requests to play the game, though.
Yeah, maybe.
I think it might also leave it open to a certain amount of manipulation of the game.
Possibly. Maybe that's part of the fun of the game, part of the charm.
Like the game, yeah, maybe. It's okay.
So yeah, I could come in and do the exact same thing here now. Go and create my bar. Did we want to fix the from body on the player creation?
Yep.
Because that one does feel...
There you go.
Nice.
So that'll work there, which will then end up with that one being in there. So that should work as well now.
Good.
Okay. So we now have... Oh, and it's taken my 10% off as well for doing that. That's good.
See, that's the cost of taxation on this planet.
Yep.
That's good.
That's
I think...
State, I think.
See what you did there. I think what we should do for future sessions is scope out a smaller feature each time.
Yep.
So like, you know, we said, right, we're going to do the create experience as part of that. We're going to do the updating the bar type. So to close this one out, what do we want to do in, and is it next week or is it the week after? I think it's 2 weeks, isn't it?
2 weeks, I think. Yeah.
On next one. So there'll be the 6th of September. Oh, I don't see anything on my... Oh, I've got us down for next week, actually.
Have you? Oh, well,
Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, no, that's fine.
So for next week, what do we want to do? So we've got updating the bar type.
Yep.
We could do...
Well, do we want to close that loop? Do we want to say, let's do the world events piece?
Agreed. That was where my mind was going. So what specific world event do we want to do then? bars of this type have a surplus, bars of this type have a... And we can leave that dynamic for the game itself to decide as well.
Yeah, or just bars of this type are getting more traffic than bars of this type.
Yep.
So ultimately ends up changing the number of funds.
So then, to really bring us full circle, and to take us back, create a player.
Now, the interesting part is we've never deployed the world event engine.
I'd say that. Maybe we should try that.
I thought, I'm not sure we've even created a Docker file for that one, but...
Types. Let me start again. Bar types are impacted. Fine. Type here. World event. Depending on bar type selected, increase, decrease of funds. Definition done. That's going to be world event engine deployed. World event engine tick triggered. Random event selected. Random parameters. G to Y type.
Yep. Yep, that sounds good.
And now we've got something nice and tightly scoped for us for next time.
Excellent.
Good. I think we got somewhere.
Yeah.
Bit of fun.
It's slowly taking shape. Like I say, it'll get fun at some point, I'm sure.
It is. No, I don't know. I think we're getting there. I think we've discovered how we work best, you and I together, that if we can try and scope these things down to something more concrete in the space of an hour and a half, I think we got the direction for sure.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we both maybe run away a little in our thinking.
Yeah.
Which I think is
in some ways this is agile. Like this is
right.
This is modern development practices is making sure you everyone is focused on a thing, on delivering some value at some point.
Exactly. There we go. We have delivered value. We've got the creation API. We've got changing a bar and the impact that has. Obviously, that can be refactored later, but that's on the backlog. Technical debt, blah, blah, blah.
Future us.
Exactly. Future us. But good. So, same time next week, same place.
Fantastic. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, sir. And pleasure as always. And we will be having more fun next week.
Okay.
So until then, folks, thanks for tuning in. See you then.